the Grace Kennedy Company, and of the Foundation's directors, I have very great pleasure in welcoming you to this 5th lecture in our annual lecture series. Let me express at once our appreciation for this turnout for the lecture, and especially encouraging it is to see these young people representing some 10 schools in the island. This is not only encouraging, but I think that it augurs well for the future. A few words about the foundation. In the person of Professor Leo-Rhynie, we are departing also in another sense, since all the first 4, as has been the practice, the full text of the lecture will be broadcast on radio, among schools, and tapes of the lectures will be distributed later. I'm sure that those of you who know Professor Elsa Leo-Rhynie have heard her speak, or even if you haven't, that you know you will be in for a very good treat. And now I'm going to...
Mr. Chairman, Professor Leo-Rhynie, anniversary of the foundation. And we are happy that the lecture in this special anniversary year will be delivered by a woman. I use the term lady in my original preparation of introduction for the radio broadcast series. And somebody advised me that it is not acceptable nowadays to call women ladies. And I was asking, who is offended by it? Is it the person who is called lady, or is it others who aren't sure whether they are ladies or not? I think it is fairly safe to say that Dr. Elsa Leo-Rhynie is both a woman and a lady. Professor Leo-Rhynie is a distinguished academic, but she arrived at her university chair by a very interesting route as a teacher of children in high schools, and then educating adults for professional competence as director of the Institute of Management and Production. She is a working mother and therefore is fully aware of the pressures and the stresses and strains on family life. And I'm sure that her insights that are going to be shared with us this evening will be very informative and helpful to all of us. She, I have to say this, is married, wife of one husband, and she has 3 children, and most important, she is a deeply entrenched Baptist on both sides, maternal of her parental families, and is married to the son of a very distinguished Baptist minister. you will understand with that kind of background, her speech is bound to be excellent. We are very pleased indeed at the foundation to have her as the 1993 lecturer, and I'm very pleased on your behalf to welcome her and to invite Dr. Elsa Leo-Rhynie to address us, the subject, the Jamaican family, continuity and change.
Chairman and directors of the Grace Kennedy Foundation, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have been greatly honored by the invitation of the Grace Kennedy Foundation to prepare and deliver their 1993 lecture. The task, a formidable one given the complexity of the subject, has been both challenging and enjoyable. I would like to thank the lecture committee and the people who worked with me at different phases of the preparation, Mrs. Pat Robinson, Mrs. Alma Mokien, and Mrs. Lita Hearn, for their advice and support. Sincere thanks also to those friends who shared their thoughts on family with me, and to my own immediate and extended family for allowing me to experience so many positive aspects of family life. The last decades of the 20th century have been characterized by rapid, complex, and often confusing change. Change in how things are perceived, how things are done, what things are valued, what things persist. This rapid change has created uncertainty, ambiguity, and conflict in the minds of people who have been prepared for a world in which change occurred at a pace which made life fairly stable and predictable. The changes which have to be faced have generated many controversial issues, challenged existing values, spawned new survival strategies and coping behaviors, and demand that individuals be more flexible, more adaptable, and more resilient. Much of the change has been accompanied by behaviors which are viewed negatively by the society at large, and Jamaicans protest the indiscipline in society, the violence, the lack of ethical and moral values, the emergence of a me generation whose members ignore the rights and feelings of others, who have little or no social conscience, and who have been accused by Burchell Taylor in the 1992 Grace Kennedy Foundation lecture of creating a subculture of flagrant materialism where money and property are the ultimate determinants of all values. These are seen as symptoms of a level of social instability which threatens family and community life, and indeed the whole fabric of Jamaican society. The paradox is that while much of this social instability has been attributed to the breakdown of traditional institutions, especially home and family, these same institutions are increasingly being called upon to be the major restabilizing influences. Yet it is true to say that a wide spectrum of change agents, including the rapid pace of technological invention with all its implications, have contributed to an instability which is worldwide. In pre-modern traditional society, the family was not only the social core unit, but the basic unit in the economy as well. It had total responsibility for educating the children, organizing the work related to feeding and maintaining the household, and also for caring the elderly. This has changed over the years, and parents no longer assume total responsibility for the socialization of their children. Professional providers, teachers, ministers of religion, doctors, nurses, community workers, counselors, sports coaches, youth leaders, and psychologists have all become part of the socialization process, and the ties between parents and children have weakened. As the family unit became smaller, it became a highly specialized institution, providing emotional support and refuge from an impersonal and increasingly competitive world, and still assuming responsibility for socializing the new generation into the attitudes, values, and traditions necessary for continuity in the society. The United Nations, in recognition of the importance of family and its continuity in the face of change, has designated 1994 the Year of the Family. In anticipation of this, the Grace Kennedy Foundation lecture this year examines the structure and function of family in Jamaican society, the factors which threaten its stability and influence, and the prospects for its future. Jamaican family patterns vary, and this variation has been the subject of much study. In some sectors of society, marriage, a legal contract, represents the transition of man and woman to a new relationship in which it is expected that an environment will be created for the bearing of children and the development of a family. This is the nuclear family pattern described by sociologist Fernando Henriquez in 1953 as the paternalistic, monogamous Christian family. And although it is the social and religious ideal for all social classes, it exists mainly in the upper and middle classes of the society at large. In the lower classes, both legal and non-legal sexual unions are established, and the latter are often very informal, with the male partner in some cases not sharing a residence with the female partner. A three-point union status classification developed by researchers George Roberts and Sonia Sinclair in 1978 is now widely used to describe the existing patterns. The categories are married, where a man and woman are legally united and share the same residence; common law, where a man and woman are not legally united, but they share a sexual union and a common residence; and visiting, where the man and woman share a sexual relationship, but they are not legally united, nor do they share a common residence. Features of family organization which are characteristic of Jamaican and Caribbean families and which have remained stable over time include the dominant role of women in households, the marginality and irresponsibility of men, the high incidence of children born out of wedlock, and the prevalence of non-legal childbearing family formation. These features have been considered deviant because they do not conform to the Western European pattern of family organization, and the term matrifocal has been used to describe the dominant Caribbean family pattern. The characteristic features of Caribbean families have been variously explained by anthropologists. On the one hand, they are considered to be the result of the harsh and brutal conditions of slavery, which prevented the formation of close family ties. And on the other, they are seen as the retention of features of West African tradition and culture, which have persisted despite the experience of slavery. The stability of these patterns over time suggests that the existing forms of family are functional responses to economic factors such as poverty, unemployment, and other adverse conditions. The matrifocal family not only provides a level of flexibility for women in residential, kinship, and mating patterns, but also permits adaptability in the face of economic change. Very often, women prefer not to establish permanent or semi-permanent relationships with men. Single-parent households also result from death or separation, and in marital unions, divorce. A number of single professional women are also either adopting a child or are electing to have and rear a child without the physical or financial support of the father, and this creates very special challenges. Women, while accepting the absence of their male partners from the household, build strong supportive networks with their close relatives, neighbors, and friends. And this kinship network very often extends beyond the household, community, and even the country. The family therefore includes members who are spatially separated but who share emotional and psychological ties, and who seek and can be depended upon for financial and other support in times of crises. The woman usually assumes primary responsibility for the home and care of the children. She is the authority figure who makes the decisions and determines the discipline. If a man is present, however, he is regarded as the undisputed head of the house, even though the actual household decision-making is carried out by the woman. The father's presence in the home is, however, often transient, his financial and other support erratic. Although in many instances the father chooses to be absent,